Have you ever wondered why certain people cross your path, even those who seem to appear out of nowhere, mess everything up, and then disappear as if they never existed? Sometimes it's someone who awakens an inexplicable emotion. It's an immediate bond, almost as if you've known each other forever. Other times it's the opposite, a presence that causes pain, anger, confusion, but somehow leaves an indelible mark. Is all this the work of chance? Or is there something greater, invisible, guiding these encounters that transform the course of our lives? Think for a moment about the people who have had the greatest impact on youth told you something profound. Even if it was through suffering. Was it luck, destiny, or spiritual purpose? Emmanuel, the spirit who for decades transmitted messages of wisdom through Chico Xavier, said that no, one comes into your life by chance. Every reunion, every relationship, every farewell is part of a plan carefully drawn up by spirituality. A plan that our heart often does not understand immediately, but that the soul recognizes. Imagine a woman who, after years of loneliness, meets someone who seems to be the love of her life. They connect intensely, but the relationship ends in pain. However, it is precisely this pain that makes her change, mature, and rediscover herself. At first glance, it seems like just a story of missed encounters, but what if? Beneath the surface, there is a reunion of old souls, settling past debts. Emmanuel taught that spiritual bonds do not dissolve over time. They just change form and purpose. And that's why certain people return to our history, not to hurt us, but to awaken us. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because often the person who hurt you the most is the very person your spirit asked to meet again before you were even born. Emmanuel explained, that life is a great field of reunions, and that chance is nothing more than the perfect disguise of divine laws, acting silently. Behind every encounter lies a hidden purpose, a lesson to be learned, an energy to be balanced, a bond to be remade. Have you ever experienced this? That friend who shows up just when you need them most? A stranger who says something that changes your day? Or someone who enters your life with such force that it seems impossible not to have a greater reason behind it? These subtle signs are, according to Emmanuel, calls of spiritual life, ways the universe reminds us that nothing is random. Each person is a temporary messenger, bringing with them something their spirit needs to understand. And the curious thing is that sometimes we only realize the true meaning of these connections much later, when the dust settles, when the heart has healed and the soul finally understands why. Emmanuel said that life brings paths together at the right time, and that each encounter is a divine summons. An opportunity to evolve, to repair, to free ourselves. Stay with me until the end. Because understanding this perspective completely changes the way you view your relationships, your reunions, and even your losses. What you'll hear next may make you rethink every person who has ever been in your life. Because according to Emmanuel, the reason for someone's presence in your life can reveal ... what your spirit most needs to learn in this existence. Have you ever felt like someone came into your life at the exact moment you needed them most? As if that person had been sent by something greater, as part of a plan you can't explain. Sometimes it's a love that comes out of nowhere and transforms everything. Other times, it's a stranger who appears, speaks a simple phrase, and, suddenly, your mind awakens to something you hadn't seen before. Coincidence? Emmanuel, the spirit who guided Chico Xavier for so many years, wisely stated, there are no chance encounters. Each soul that crosses your path comes to fulfill a task, reveal a lesson, or fix something that time left pending. According to the teachings of Emmanuel, life is governed by invisible laws, and one of the most profound is the law of spiritual connections. It states that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens without a reason. Souls meet again, life after life, in different roles, to continue the learning that was left incomplete. It's as if we were participating in an immense cosmic choreography. Each step was carefully calculated to bring us face to face with what we need to heal. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now could completely change the way you view the people who are part of your story, Imagine the universe as a vast spiritual chessboard, and each person as a piece moved by divine hands. Sometimes we are placed before someone who awakens love, empathy, and affection, and we feel that destiny has conspired in our favor. Other times we are confronted by people who challenge us, who seem to test our patience, who hurt us. And that's when the law of spiritual connections reveals itself in its most intense form. Emmanuel explained that souls do not meet by chance, but by necessity. Love, forgiveness, learning, and even suffering are ways of balancing what was left pending in other existences. Have you ever experienced this? Meeting someone and feeling an instant connection, as if your soul recognizes something your mind can't explain. Or feeling an immediate dislike for someone who just appeared. According to Emmanuel, these feelings aren't coincidences, they are spiritual memories. Marks of stories we've lived with these same souls in past lives, and it's through these reunions that we evolve, adjust what was left unresolved, and, little by little, learn to love more consciously. There are encounters that heal us and others that tear us apart. There are loves that blossom and others that crumble, but all without exception serve a purpose. Emmanuel said that every soul that crosses your path comes to teach or learn. No encounter is a waste of time. And if you observe closely, you'll realize that even the people who disappointed you most were teachers in disguise. They brought to the surface what was hidden within you: pride, fear, anger, attachment, everything the spirit needs to transform to free itself. It's curious to see how, over time, everything begins to make sense. Those people who came into your life and then drifted away, the unexpected reunions, the bonds that endure, even at a distance. Emmanuel reminds us that life is a great reunion of souls, that each relationship is a bridge between who we were and who we are learning to be. The universe doesn't miss spiritual directions, it just delivers lessons at the right time. So, when someone comes your way and awakens deep emotions, good or bad, remember, nothing happens by chance. Perhaps this person is helping you pay off an old debt, or offering you the chance to experience love with more awareness and lightness. What seems like a simple coincidence could be the result of centuries of learning. And this is what Emmanuel spoke about so clearly: life unites, separates, and reunites souls as many times as necessary, until the learning is complete. But what really determines the type of connection we create with each person? What determines whether a reunion will be healing or painful? Emmanuel also revealed these answers, and that's what we'll talk about next. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to come into your life just to cause you pain? That friendship that ended in betrayal, the love that tore you apart, the family member who hurt you in a way you never expected. Why does fate put these people in our path? Is it just bad luck, or is there a greater purpose behind it all? Emmanuel, the spirit who accompanied Chico Xavier for so many years, said that challenges are the true instructors of the spirit, and perhaps what you call suffering today. The spiritual world sees as an opportunity for growth, liberation, and life. According to Emmanuel, never misses a beat. Every encounter, every separation, every loss carries a lesson our hearts still need to learn. And, more often than not, the deepest lessons come wrapped in pain. The spirits that hurt us train us to forgive. Those who abandon us teach us to let go. This phrase perfectly sums up Emmanuel's view of suffering. It is not a punishment, but a schooler's school where love is the teacher and patience is the first lesson. Have you ever been there? Feeling like something that destroyed you inside ended up making you stronger? Maybe you didn't realize it, but that broken heart taught you to value true love. That friend who betrayed you showed you the value of sincerity. And that painful failure may have been the push the universe used to pull you off a path that wasn't yours. Emmanuel explained that nothing is loss when the spirit learns what appears to be misfortune is often just a disguise of divine providence acting silently but precisely. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now could completely change the way you view pain. Emmanuel claimed that higher spirits don't send us suffering to punish, but to awaken. Suffering is like fire that purifies gold. It removes what is false, what is pride, what is vanity, and leaves only what is essential. what time cannot destroy. And that's why, even in the worst moments, life continues to guide, adjust, and shape us. Think for a moment, what if that disappointment you experienced was actually a push from the universe toward your awakening? What if that person who hurt you was just the instrument life used to show you who you really are? Emmanuel reminds us that no one suffers in vain. Every tear has a purpose. Every pain has a direction. The incarnate spirit, he said, is like a student in a classroom. Difficulties are the tests that reveal whether we are ready to move forward. How many times have you looked back and realized that something that seemed like the end was actually the beginning of a new version of yourself? Pain tears us apart, but it also opens us. It destroys what no longer serves so that something new can be born. Emmanuel called this divine pedagogy, the method through which God teaches us to be better. Life doesn't want to punish you. It wants to teach you. And often, it is in pain that the soul awakens to its true greatness. So, when someone hurts you, when something seems unfair, perhaps the wisest thing to do is not ask, "Why me?" but rather, "What does this want to teach me?" Because according to Emmanuel, the spirits that challenge us the most are often those who love us most on the spiritual plane, souls who accepted the difficult mission of helping us evolve. And that's where understanding changes everything. When you understand that even pain has a purpose, suffering loses its power to destroy you. But what Emmanuel revealed about the origin of these challenges and how they recur across lifetimes is something even more profound. Have you ever stopped to think about how many people have passed through your life and left a mark you've never been able to erase? Some arrived with lightness, brought smiles, complicity, and became part of your story. Others came amid storms, shook you, hurt you, and left, leaving scars that time still tries to heal. But what if I told you that none of them appeared by chance? That behind every glance, every reunion, and even every goodbye, there is a spiritual purpose much greater than we imagine. According to Emmanuel, the spirit that guided Chico Xavier for so many years, there are no random encounters. Every person who crosses your path plays a role in the script of your evolution. Some come to support you, some to test you, and some simply to remind you of who you truly are. He said that no one enters your life by chance, and no one leaves without leaving a lesson. This phrase seems simple, but it carries one of the deepest truths of spiritual life. Everything that happens to us is part of a divine. It's planned for learning and soul growth. Think about the people who have had the most profound impact on you. Those who helped you evolve, but also those who caused you pain. Perhaps without realizing it, you've experienced reunions from other existences' old souls who return to balance what was left unfinished, to heal broken bonds, or to teach you the true meaning of love. Emmanuel explained that every relationship is an opportunity for redemption and wisdom, and that even the briefest encounters can carry a message from above. Have you ever been there? Meeting someone and feeling that connection goes far beyond the present? Or meeting someone again and feeling that bond is stronger than any logical explanation? Emmanuel said this happens because souls recognize each other through energy, not by appearance. There are vibrations that attract each other to rebuild what was destroyed, to give back what was received, or simply to walk together for another stretch of the journey. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because, according to Emmanuel, life doesn't just put people in our path, takes them away when the lesson has already been learned. When someone leaves, it's not the end. It's the closing of a spiritual cycle. Sometimes separation is necessary for love to mature, for forgiveness to blossom, or for the spirit to free itself from old bonds of suffering. And it is in this movement of arrival and departure that the soul finds peace. Stay with me until the end, because understanding this completely changes the way you view the past. When the heart understands that everything has a purpose, suffering ceases to be a wound and transforms into wisdom. Emmanuel taught that peace is born when we accept the spiritual value of each person who has passed through our history, including those we'd rather forget. No encounter is useless. No love is in vain. No goodbye is final. Sometimes what you call a coincidence is actually a spiritual rescue in disguise. That friend who welcomed you during a difficult time may have been someone you hurt in another life and has now come to offer you forgiveness. That impossible love may have been a reunion of souls who still need to learn to love without attachment. And even that enemy, who tests your patience and challenges you every day, may be a fellow traveler who agreed to help you develop patience and compassion. Emmanuel's wisdom invites us to look at the past with new eyes. Not with the eyes of pain, but with those of understanding. Because when we can see the hidden meaning behind each encounter, anger dissolves. The weight of guilt lessens, and our hearts open to forgiveness. Life ceases to seem like a succession of coincidences and reveals itself as a perfect web of spiritual reunions, where each thread is woven by the loving hand of God. And that's when everything changes. Because when you begin to see your life's encounters in this new light, you discover that nothing, absolutely nothing, was in vain. And that, perhaps at this very moment, someone is about to cross your path, with a purpose your spirit has yet to comprehend. And perhaps, upon hearing all this, you remembered someone, a person who came into your life and completely changed the course of your story for better or for worse. Sometimes all it takes is a name, a face, a memory, and the heart understands that that encounter was no mere coincidence. And it is at that moment that understanding begins to transform into healing. Because when we understand the spiritual purpose behind the people who crossed our path, the pain softens, the weight lifts, and the soul breathes a sigh of relief. If this topic resonates with you, if this reflection touched your heart in some way, leave a comment below with your thoughts. Write about the person who left a lesson in your life, perhaps someone who brought you love, or someone who taught you through pain. Sharing your story can help others realize they're not alone in this spiritual learning process. The energy you put into your words creates invisible bridges between hearts, searching for the same answers. And if this message made you think differently, if you believe that more people need to hear this type of content, like the video right now, this isn't just a simple gesture, it's a way to strengthen this chain of light, so it can reach those who need comfort, clarity, or hope right now. Each like helps the message of Emmanuel and so many other spirits of light reach further, crossing borders, awakening souls, and bringing solace where silence weighs heavily. Oh, and if you feel like this is the kind of reflection that speaks to your soul, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way you can continue walking together on this journey of self-discovery, spirituality, and evolution. Your presence here is what keeps this space alive, what gives meaning to each word shared. We are part of the same current, and the more people join it, the stronger the message becomes. Because deep down, we're all trying to understand the same mystery: why certain people cross our path and what they truly came to teach us. And the answer, maybe, is closer than we imagine. Have you ever wondered why certain people cross your path even if they seem to cause you pain, confusion, or such intense joy that it transforms you from within? Sometimes it's someone who appears suddenly at a time when you least expect it. It could be a friend who appears during a difficult time and completely changes your way of seeing the world. Or even someone who hurts you deeply but, without realizing it, teaches you to rise up in a different way. There are encounters that seem casual, but leave such profound marks that it's impossible to believe they were just coincidence. I remember a story that Emmanuel, the spirit who guided Chico Xavier for so many decades, used to explain symbolically. He said that there are bonds that are not broken by distance, nor by time, nor even by death. They are bonds of learning, of redemption, of love, and of healing. Imagine two souls who once deeply wounded each other, and who now in this life find each other again, perhaps as mother and son, as friends, as companions, or even as apparent enemies. Emmanuel said that these connections don't happen to punish us, but to offer us the chance to make amends, to understand what we previously couldn't see. According to him, no one enters our lives by chance. Each person is a kind of mirror, reflecting parts of us that we don't yet fully understand. Sometimes it's easy to recognize love, connection, and comfort. But at other times, the mirror reveals what we'd rather hide: our fears, our jealousy, our impatience, our inability to forgive. And that's precisely where true learning begins. Emmanuel explained that. On the spiritual plane, encounters are carefully prepared. Even before birth, the soul participates in choosing the paths and people who will be part of its journey. Not as a fixed itinerary, but as a map of possibilities where each decision can change the course of history. That person who irritates you can be your greatest teacher. The one who inspires you may have walked with you in other lives, pushing you forward once again. And the one who caused you pain perhaps was placed there to teach you to love without possessing, to forgive without expecting the other to regret it. It sounds poetic, and it is. But it's also profoundly practical, because when we understand this, it changes how we react to everyday situations. An argument, a breakup, a loss are no longer seen as life's injustices and begin to be perceived as part of a larger story. Pain still stings, but it begins to make sense. Chance begins to have purpose, and chaos often reveals a point of balance that was hidden within us. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's one aspect Emmanuel always emphasized that, in a way, completely changes our perception of destiny and free will. He said that even when something seems inevitable, how we react is what defines the spiritual value of that experience. It's not what happens to you that changes your life, but what you do with what happens. It's your choice, your inner movement, your decision to transform pain into learning or resentment into compassion. And this leads us to a hidden truth that few can see. Life often sends people who act as triggers. They touch old wounds, awaken dormant emotions, and unintentionally reveal what still needs healing within us. Emmanuel called this mirrors of the soul. He said that if someone's presence deeply bothers you, perhaps it's not about the other person, but about something within you that still resists understanding. This is the most challenging part of the journey, facing the reflection without running away, without blaming, without projecting, and see how this changes everything. The enemy ceases to be just an obstacle and becomes a teacher in disguise. Unrequited love ceases to be a failure and becomes an invitation to self-worth. Even the most painful separations become chapters of liberation, where each person follows their own path, taking with them the learning necessary for the next cycle. Nothing is wasted. Everything is a tool for growth. But there's one detail Emmanuel made a point of clarifying. Understanding isn't the same as submitting. Understanding the spiritual purpose of an encounter doesn't mean accepting any kind of suffering in the name of evolution. Wisdom lies in recognizing the limit between what life wants to teach you and what you no longer need to endure. Sometimes the lesson is learning to say enough, to walk away with love, to end a cycle without hatred, but with maturity. This, too, is spirituality, choosing your own peace without wishing harm on anyone. When we look at it this way, each person becomes an essential character in our story. Some come to open doors, others to close them. Some push you, others test you. And in the end, they all leave something in you, even those you'd rather forget. Emmanuel said that even forgetting is a form of love, divine resource for the soul to move on without carrying the weight of the past. Perhaps that's why encounters are so intense and brief. People who pass like a flash of lightning but leave a light that never fades. They fulfill their role and move on, because what needed to be awakened has already been. Others remain, side by side, sustaining their process of evolution over the years. And then there are those who seem to disappear and then return, as if the universe were saying, now you are ready to truly recognize yourselves. It's all part of an invisible mechanism, where every movement has a purpose. Every connection has a time, and every reunion has a purpose. When you start seeing life from this perspective, even the missed encounters take on meaning. It's as if the universe is silently saying, trust, nothing was in vain. And if, upon hearing all this, something inside you calmed down, if a memory came to the surface, if a pain made more sense, or if a person crossed your mind perhaps, this is your soul recognizing the truth behind the coincidences. Comment here. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Because according to Emmanuel, behind every human reunion lies an invisible mechanism, kind of silent law that governs soul ties, the law of spiritual connections. It is this law that allows people who seemed completely distant to meet in the most unlikely circumstances. Nothing happens by chance, not love at first sight, not sudden conflict, not that friendship that seems to have crossed centuries to reach you. Emmanuel said that the universe is extremely precise in its plots, and that each soul is drawn precisely to the point where it needs to grow, understand, and above all, heal what was left unfinished on previous journeys. Think of the universe as a vast chessboard, where each piece moves purposefully. Sometimes life brings out the best in you, and other times it confronts you with the most challenging. Love and conflict are two forces that work together in this same spiritual game. When you feel an instant kinship with someone, it can be a reflection of an ancient connection, a reunion of souls who recognized each other in other lifetimes. But when there's shock, resistance, anger, or pain, this too is a reunion, but with an energy that needs to be balanced. Emmanuel taught that love and forgiveness are the only currencies capable of settling the spiritual debts we accumulate along the way. It's interesting to see how, even without remembering the past, the body and heart react. Have you ever noticed how there are people who bring you an immediate sense of familiarity, or others who, for no apparent reason, make you uncomfortable, afraid, or suspicious? According to Emmanuel, these reactions aren't random, they're memories of the soul. Energy recognizes even when the mind doesn't understand. What we call a first impression is often just the echo of something that was recorded on more subtle planes. It now returns to be understood in a different way. He also said that when the soul is ready, life sends the right people, even if the situation seems wrong. Sometimes encounters happen in the midst of chaos, loss, or a moment when everything seems to be falling apart. And it is there, at this point of vulnerability, that spiritual connections show their true strength. The universe doesn't make mistakes, just uses different paths than we imagine. And that's why Emmanuel insisted. Every soul that crosses your path comes to teach or learn. No encounter is a waste of time. When we look at life through this lens, even relationships that fail take on new meaning. The purpose of a bond isn't always to last sometimes. It's just to awaken. It's to make you see something that was dormant. A person can appear in your story for a month, a day, or a decade, and still completely change the direction of your journey. This is spiritual impact, when a simple look, a conversation, an action, gives new meaning to everything you believed to be true. Emmanuel called this turning points of the soul. Moments when destiny seems to fold in on itself, and you feel, even without fully understanding, that something inside you will never be the same again. But there's one detail, he always emphasized. The law of spiritual connections isn't a prison. It doesn't dictate who you should love, forgive, or keep in your life. It simply offers opportunities for you to make new choices, conscious choices, with a more mature and awakened mindset. Free will remains the most important piece on this board. You can repeat patterns, or you can transform them. You can perpetuate pain, or you can transmute it into wisdom. And this decision is the point where the divine and the human meet, where destiny offers you the lesson, but your heart decides what to do with it. Imagine that every relationship is a spiritual classroom. Some lessons are light and inspiring. Others are hard and uncomfortable, but they are all necessary. The person who challenges you teaches you patience. The one who disappoints you teaches you boundaries. The one who supports you teaches you gratitude. And the one who loves you unconditionally teaches you what love truly is. Emmanuel said that none of these experiences are random. They are carefully calibrated to the degree of your soul's evolution. There is no mistake, only learning, and it's curious how, over time, we begin to realize that the universe truly has a mysterious way of weaving these stories together. You meet someone in an unlikely place, exchange a word, a gesture, and that becomes a connection that changes everything. Sometimes, what seems like a simple coincidence is actually one of the most important pieces of your spiritual puzzle. Emmanuel explained that synchronicity is the language of the higher planes. When two souls are ready to meet again, destiny takes charge of connecting their paths, even if one is in a distant country or in completely opposite circumstances. He also said that true connections don't break, they just change form. Even when there's physical separation, the bond remains vibrant at another level. That's why, at times, you miss someone you haven't seen in years or feel an inexplicable peace when thinking about someone who's already passed. Love is a frequency that transcends boundaries. It doesn't depend on presence, touch, or time. It's pure energy which continues to exist, evolve, and propel you even when life has moved on. And perhaps this is one of the most beautiful hidden truths Emmanuel left, that every soul is in constant movement, and each reunion is a new chance to align what was once lost. Nothing is punishment. Everything is healing. Nothing is an eternal debt. Everything is shared learning. The universe doesn't separate to punish. It separates to reorganize. It dismantles what is unbalanced to rebuild in a more conscious, more mature way, closer to the essence of true love. When you understand this, even goodbyes become lighter. Resentment fades, regret turns to understanding, and pain gives way to gratitude. Because deep down, every person who has passed through your life has left something that contributed to your growth even. If it was simply the awakening of your inner strength, Emmanuel said that true forgiveness arises when the soul understands that there are no guilty parties, only apprentices at different stages of the same journey. And it's at this point that life takes on a new perspective. You begin to see the spiritual undercurrents behind your relationships, understanding that the pieces have always been moving in your favor, and that each emotion, love, anger, loss, or a reunion was part of a larger evolutionary process. The human mind sees chaos, but the spirit recognizes order. What seemed like confusion is actually the divine method of leading you to clarity. And if, while listening to this, a memory surfaced to face, a story, a feeling perhaps, it's your own soul recognizing that everything you've experienced so far has had a much greater purpose than you imagined. Nothing was in vain. Every step has brought you here, exactly where you needed to be. Write in the comments, I'm on that journey too. I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is precisely when life presents us with challenges that the true meaning of spiritual connections reveals itself. Emmanuel said that suffering is not a punishment, but a schooling, and that the most difficult people on our journey, those who test our patience, our love, and even our faith are, in fact, silent instructors of the Spirit. He asserted that no one crosses our path without a just reason, and that often what we see as offense, betrayal, or rejection is merely a reflection of the lesson the soul needs to learn to evolve. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you experienced a disappointment that seemed unfair, only to realize later that it was precisely that moment that made you change direction? It's curious how pain, when understood, becomes a turning point. Emmanuel used to say, "The spirits that hurt us train us in forgiveness. Those who abandon us teach us detachment." And this is one of the most challenging truths of spiritual life. Because it's easy to be grateful to those who love us, true growth happens. When we can feel gratitude even for those who have caused us suffering, sometimes the soul needs to be shaken awake. And the universe uses precisely the people and situations that most affect our ego to do so. The partner who disappoints us, the friend who betrays us, the family member who rejects us all, these roles are part of a larger script, carefully written for our spiritual maturation. Emmanuel explained that the incarnate spirit is like an advanced student. The higher the level of evolution, the more complex the tests become. And the tests, in this case, are emotional. It's not the world that tests you. It's the love within you that needs to be expanded. Pain is the language. The soul understands when love has not yet been enough to teach. This is why, according to Emmanuel, suffering is sacred. It forces us to look within, to reevaluate our decisions, our mindset, and the hidden truths we prefer to ignore. Suffering tears away the masks our ego has constructed and reveals our true selves vulnerable, yes, but also capable of starting over as many times as necessary. The soul evolves when it accepts the role of learner, not victim. Many people live trapped in the idea that they are being punished by life, when in fact they are being polished. Emmanuel said that suffering doesn't destroy, it refines. It molds character, strengthens faith, and awakens consciousness. It's like fire that purifies gold without the heat of pain. The soul would remain raw, unfinished, repeating the same mistakes in endless cycles. Every loss, every frustration, every silence imposed by life is a way for the universe to say, observe, learn, transform. There's something profoundly liberating in understanding that the people who hurt us are also fighting their own invisible battles. They are instruments of our healing, but they're also searching for their own. Emmanuel believed that no one hurts out of pure malice, but rather out of spiritual ignorance, a lack of conscious love. And that changes everything. Because when you begin to see the other as a spirit in process, resentment gives way to compassion. Judgment dissolves and a quiet understanding emerges that we are all trying, each in our own way, to do the best we can with our current level of consciousness. And it is at this point that forgiveness ceases to be a moral obligation and becomes an emotional liberation. Emmanuel said that forgiveness is the key that unlocks the prison door where the spirit is imprisoned. Holding a grudge is like carrying the past on your shoulders, preventing the soul from walking lightly. When we forgive, we don't justify the mistake, we simply decide not to allow it to continue hurting us. True strength lies not in defeating the other person, but in overcoming the resentment they arouse within us. Perhaps that disappointment you experienced, which seemed to have broken you, was the push you needed to awaken to something greater. Perhaps the abandonment that hurt so much was the universe's invitation to learn to be self-sufficient. And perhaps that conflict you found unfair was life's way of showing you what you no longer need to accept. Emmanuel reminds us that the spirit only matures when it understands the hidden meaning of suffering, not as punishment, but as preparation for a higher level of consciousness. He said that each soul is like a traveler climbing a mountain. Sometimes the path is steep, the wind is strong, and the rocks hurt the feet. But with each step, the vision expands. What once seemed like chaos begins to make sense, and pain transforms into wisdom. When the spirit understands this, it stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begins asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" This simple shift in mindset is the beginning of a new stage in the spiritual journey, and there's something profoundly human and divine at the same time in this process. Because even when the soul understands its purpose, the heart still feels. Emmanuel recognized this. He said that spiritual learning doesn't nullify emotion, it only guides it. You can forgive and still miss someone. You can understand and still hurt. But the difference lies in not allowing yourself to be imprisoned by pain. It's walking with it until it dissolves into consciousness. It's letting love mature within you, a more serene, wiser, more silent love. When we look at things this way, even the darkest moments in our history take on a new light. The breakup that felt like the end, the betrayal that broke our hearts, the silence that felt like abandonment, all of these become necessary chapters in our inner expansion. Emmanuel said that the universe is pedagogical. It repeats lessons until the spirit learns. And learning is revealed when you can look back on the past without pain, only with gratitude. Life, in its wisdom, uses contrast to teach us. Without cold, we wouldn't understand the value of warmth. Without absence, we wouldn't recognize presence. And without pain, we might never seek the true meaning of peace. Emmanuel shows us that even the deepest suffering has a hidden purpose, to make the soul discover that love is not outside, but within. And when this happens, something changes forever. Our gaze becomes more compassionate, our words more kind. Our way of relating to the world stops being a struggle and becomes a dance. People are no longer seen as enemies or saviors, but rather as mirrors. Mirrors that reflect the parts of us that still need healing, and also those that have already learned to love unconditionally. Every difficult relationship is, deep down, an opportunity in disguise. And the more the soul understands this, the less it resists, the less it suffers. Emmanuel said that true spiritual growth happens when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start being grateful, "I'm glad it was me," because that means you're ready to transcend. Ultimately, all life wants is to teach us to love, and it will do so in every possible way, through tenderness, through loss, through challenge, through waiting. Love is the ultimate purpose. And until we learn, the universe will continue to present us with the right people, at the right times, for the right reasons. Even if our minds don't understand, write in the comments, "That makes sense to me." When we begin to understand the hidden meaning of encounters, something changes deep within us. It's as if a curtain opens, revealing that nothing, absolutely nothing, of what we experience was in vain. Emmanuel said that no one enters your life by chance, and no one leaves without leaving a lesson. And when we truly absorb this truth, the weight of pain begins to dissolve, and what once seemed like a punishment takes on the brilliance of a learning experience. It's a shift in mindset that transforms how we look at the past and also how we embrace the present. Think for a moment about all the people who have crossed your path. Some came bringing light, others shadows. But all in some way were teachers. Those who hurt you taught you about limits. Those who loved you showed you the value of surrender. And those who disappointed you, even unknowingly, pushed you to a higher level of your own consciousness. Emmanuel used to say that life is a field of spiritual reunions, and each soul that passes through us carries a kind of invisible contract. Written long before this incarnation, these encounters aren't random, they're invitations to evolution. Sometimes that relationship that ended in tears was actually an old agreement finally being resolved. Other times, that friendship that came out of nowhere is an old soul returning to walk with you once more. And when we realize this, a new kind of peace is born. The peace of those who understand that destiny isn't punishment, it's coherence. That the universe doesn't punish, it educates. That reunions aren't accidents, but instruments of awakening. Some call it coincidence. Others prefer to call it destiny. Emmanuel called it the law of spiritual affinities. And it functions as a kind of gravity of the solid, attracting to us the experiences and people we most need to evolve. This means that even missed encounters have a purpose, that even goodbyes have meaning. Because each farewell is also a turning point, a portal that pushes us into the next chapter of our journey. How many times have you felt like you've known someone for a long time, even if the encounter was recent? This instant familiarity is an echo from other lives, subtle memory of something that was already experienced in another time, in other forms. It is these connections that shape our invisible history and teach us that love is the thread that sews together all existences. When the heart understands this, it stops clinging to resentment. Every soul that hurts you also awakens you. Every loss polishes you. And every reunion is an opportunity to rewrite what was left unresolved. Emmanuel said that the people who challenge us the most are the ones who help us grow the most. And it's hard to accept that when we're in the midst of pain. But as time passes and the wound begins to heal, we realize he was right. That experiment that seemed like the end was, in fact, the beginning of a new version of ourselves. The hidden truth is that every human relationship is a bridge between inner worlds. It is in bonds and in ruptures that we find the mirror of the soul. It's no wonder that life insists on placing certain people in our path. Sometimes it's not about the other person. It's about what we still need to acknowledge within ourselves. Anger, pride, the fear of loving, the fear of losing, all of this comes to the surface through relationships. It is the souls around us that show us without words what still needs healing, and it is at this point that spirituality ceases to be theory and becomes practice. Because understanding the law of spiritual connections isn't just about grasping the concept, it's about living it. It's with awareness and courage. It's about looking at someone and thinking, if this person crossed my path, there's something here the universe wants to show me. This mindset completely transforms the way we react to challenges. What was once anger becomes learning. What was once pain becomes light. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic. Because understanding the purpose of encounters is also understanding the purpose of life. Emmanuel said that true spiritual progress begins when we stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what did this happen for? This simple shift in question opens a new dimension of understanding. Because when we seek the why for, Stop seeing ourselves as victims and start acting as learners. Maybe that impossible love came only to teach you detachment. Maybe that conflict with a family member is a reflection of something old that now needs to be healed with forgiveness. Maybe that friend who drifted away without explanation fulfilled exactly the role they needed to, teaching you to move forward without depending on anyone's approval. Emmanuel said that the bonds of love are not lost, they only change form. And it's true. Nothing that is built in essence is undone. It simply transforms. This insight changes everything, because you begin to understand that encounters aren't about winning or losing, but about learning. That the true meaning of relationships lies in the silent lessons each leaves behind, and that even misunderstandings are part of a greater alignment, an alignment that may only make sense many years from now, when time reveals the hidden reasons behind each step. So, when your heart feels like complaining about fate, remember the universe doesn't make mistakes. Each person you meet is part of a divine engineering process, adjusting roots, healing stories, and awakening consciousness. It is in this understanding that true serenity is born, the kind that comes when we realize that everything is right, even when it seems like everything is wrong. Comment there, that makes sense to me. And if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for joining me on this profound reflection on the encounters and lessons each person brings to our lives. If this content touched you in any way, a simple way to continue being part of this journey is to subscribe to the channel. Here, the goal is to consistently share messages that expand consciousness, help you understand life more clearly, and offer perspectives that make a difference in your spiritual journey. If this video made sense to you, leave a simple sentence in the comments. I'm with you until the end. It's a way for us to connect, to see who is truly reflecting together, and to strengthen this community that seeks to learn, grow, and transform its outlook on life. And if you felt any connection with this message, click the like button too. It's not just a gesture, but a sign that we're creating a shared energy, a real exchange between those who produce and those who follow. Each like helps keep this conversation alive, bringing these reflections to more people who can also benefit from this understanding of encounters, learning, and the evolution of the soul. And before you continue, there's a video here that complements this topic, offering even more reflections on life's signs and how to recognize the lessons that come through the people we meet. Click there and stay with me, because the journey is just beginning and there's much more to discover together.